Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reviews, where today I have the pleasure of reviewing a track from an act named eNuminous and Archimedes, titled Mowlra. And if we switch over to here, we have the track on the screen. Now, full disclosure, this is future Logan. You're going to go back to past Logan about the 36-second mark of this review. The reason is that I updated OBS today, and it did something very unexpected. It played two different audio sources or two different microphones at the same time with delay on them. So that thoroughly screwed the start of the review. So I'm going to listen through the first 36 seconds, and you know, a lot of the comments that I made now are going to be the same as like initially. But I will pause at the 36-second mark, and then we'll go back to past Logan. It's not like it'll be a big change, just like a few seconds or something like that, you know. I recorded it an hour ago, so I haven't gone through a massive wardrobe change or anything. But anyways, gonna listen through this track from start to finish here, we think. Let's go. Let's do it. All right. Sorry. Final thing. This track has an AI-generated video in it, right? So the piano and the other sort of electronic elements and stuff like that. And I think later on I double-checked that this was the case. So if I say it again, just, you know, ignore that. But basically, all of the audio you're going to hear was basically man-made or sort of like samples or like electronic sort of synthetic elements and everything like that. But the video is AI-generated. So yeah, let's go. Let's do it. It's the kind of stuff that eNuminous and Archimedes are into, so it's awesome. It's very unique. So obviously got this kind of really trippy sort of like unusual video that we've got here, which I really enjoy looking at. It's just a shame I can't like watch it as I review it, you know? I mean, I can, but you gotta focus on the audio elements. Yeah, it's like very subtle little sort of like delay drum beats there. Sort of industrial beats from the early 2000s, alongside the piano line. And the fizz and sizzle there that's going on as a Foley effect. It's kind of stunning, eh? Yeah, there's a little bit of uncertainty with those piano parts. You know, I just, as a comment, I don't really figure it out later on what this track is about. It's going to be totally open to interpretation, right? But at this point in time, I just want to state that, again, at the risk of saying it later in the review, the stuff that AI, artificial intelligence, can do nowadays with video making, stuff like that, is absolutely sensational. But anyways, I'm going to pass you over to past Logan. Enjoy the review. I just realized that OBS had and so it updated itself, and I had my webcam recording audio when I didn't want it to, and I was like, do I have to record this again? No, it's because I separate them into different audio files, so that's good. Thank goodness for OBS. The fizzling and the sizzling is not something I'm totally comfortable with, and if I'm honest with you, the video is absolutely terrifying to me. I find it incredibly intriguing that you've got all these different sort of movements and twisting, warping manifestations of what the AI thinks should relate to this music, and I like that it knows there's a piano in there. We've got massive ass accordions or harmonicas. Few clowns with some boogeymen, buildings occasionally. Yeah, I don't know, man. Hang on a minute, I just want to confirm what I was talking about before about the, So to clarify, yeah, no, this song is basically all sort of like, there's some synthetic elements in there, some electronica elements there, the piano obviously, but there's no AI stuff in there. I just wanted to make sure, because some of the tones were really unusual and everyone... I mean, to be fair though, like, this is eNuminous and Archimedes we're talking about here. That stuff is traditionally kind of avant-garde and very experimental, so that's okay. It's very eerie and unsettling. But I don't particularly mind that music doesn't need to be comfortable there. I'm not a massive fan of the screechy sort of cicada sounds that we have occasionally. They're a bit too sharp for my personal tastes. I can't figure out contextually why they're on that side of the stereo field. Is it meant to represent like the African elements we've gotten here of like the tribal costumes and everything like that? Also the heavy presence of the sun in the desert and all that kind of stuff. I like the warmth here in these major tones, although we're quickly sort of disassembling that immediately. I mean, it's just, it's pretty intense. The music can come up with this kind of stuff, or that the AI's artificial intelligence can come up with this stuff. I mean, as you probably figured out, it is an instrumental. I mean, when you look at this, I mean, like, I'm hearing it. I'm listening to the piano sort of dancing around discordantly, as well as the sort of sound of the nature hums and whispers and everything like that. When you look at this, just for a moment, I know art is subjective, but this is legitimate nightmare fuel. Like, look at that face. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying that we've done a bad job here. I just think it's incredibly fascinating. I'm wondering where the computer got the inspiration from. And why do we keep going back to houses? The synths were an unexpected time in there. I do like the way they're rising up in that upper field there and kind of adding a sense of perspective in that bit. It is a different texture than what we've had previously. I do like the clarity of the piano tone here, even with the bit of filtering and reverb on it. And the very sort of alternative sound to the, you know, those hi-hats there with a bit of distortion on the kind of really sort of bass boosted kicks. Well, not bass boosted, you know, like when you push a signal too far on a track in a mix, because boom, 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 like heavily kind of visceral sounding, fizzy sort of kick sound. Distortion there as well. And aside from the incredibly full-on piano parts there where we are really kind of firing away at it, I think everything else sounds gorgeous here. Apart from the cicada sounds. I suppose it is to help the computer to build an aesthetic or something like that of what the video is meant to be like. It's like we've got several different songs in one. Piano doing its own vibe. The going on in the background is doing its own sort of track. I mean, it's quite a lot in it. Mowlra. I feel as if I've taken an acid trip for free. eNuminous and Archimedes. Wonderful music though. Sometimes the best music is the most sort of strange and out there. Okay, so basically, Impressionism describes a style of painting developed in France during the mid to late 19th century. Characterizations of the style include small visible brushstrokes that offer the bare impression of form, unblended color, and an emphasis on the accurate depiction of natural light. I think despite the cacophony of different ingredients we had within this audiovisual experience, I can understand how bargain-based Impressionism, I can understand how the whole Impressionist itself aspect comes into it. You know, you have got those light brushstrokes there, you've got shapes of forms, it doesn't seem too particularly artificial in regards to or synthetic in regards to the lighting and everything like that. I think that it's really cool that we're getting an artificial intelligence to make videos like this. I think that that's the way of the future, as long as it can be reined in or directed in the rough direction that we want it to be. Or maybe you'd argue that maybe creativity is better when there are no restraints at all. different strokes for different folks. As this is an instrumental track, there was no story that I could tell. Mowlra. The video was talking about people interacting with one another, offering gifts and exchanging stuff. Maybe the houses represented wealth or something like that. Lots of people like interacting, some people in business suits, others in full tribal outfits. I think that there's a million and one ways you could probably interpret this video, and I think that's the beautiful part about art, is that it is subjective, and that's kind of the point of it. Everyone is supposed to look at it their own way. So what I'd recommend if you do like this song today is that if you actually listen to it in your own time, that you kind of get the hang of that in your own time, feel it out and see what you feel, see what you think about it. I'd recommend that. I think that'd be a great choice. I think with lack of vocals, what's really important is the composition itself. And at 5 minutes 23, it's quite long. It's quite long. You had the piano, some sort of swishy sort of Foley sound effects there, the cicadas that happened initially. Very sort of occasional high, mid-high resonant synth there as a bit of a lead to sort of sparkle in the space in the ambience. We had some percussion as well, some interesting sort of filtered hi-hat grooves on top of some sort of punchier kind of bass boosted kicks. I don't get the feeling or the impression that all of these elements came through in a way that was meant to necessarily be totally interconnected and sort of like dependent on another. It felt as if each of the instruments within this mix was kind of like just co-mingling, as if we wanted them to sort of brush up against each other but not too much. As if we were sort of interpreting the impressionist stuff within the music itself, and I think that's a beautiful thing. It's like a big old melting pot, except it ain't organized, and that's life, baby. That's what life is. It ain't organized, and there's 7 billion people doing different things, and that's the Wild West. That's the wild world we're in, and I kind of like the fact that we worked at it like that. I mean, there was a lot to appreciate with the piano lines, especially as I consider them the most sort of like consistent lead there, where we had. We had this synthesizer, come in occasionally, or the cicadas come in occasionally to sort of highlight and add a bit more context maybe for the video itself, which is simply to sort of make it sound like you're in a desert or in a tropical place or something like that. You had this environment with the piano where we had some lovely individual concepts. There were some lovely sort of major sections where the right hand sparkled and glided along some major arpeggios and stuff like that, and the bass line on the left hand would kind of follow along with that a little bit, but then occasionally the hand would go prom and play some dissonant chords there. Sometimes they had one too many notes, and I think that was definitely a thing they did on purpose there, just to kind of come back down and crash down to earth. Maybe as if we're trying to allow beauty to express itself, but we don't want it to get too overconfident. There were changes in the mood and expression throughout the piece there. It was like a plethora of different moods and vibes within that 5 minutes. So I can't necessarily say there's any filler. If you're looking for a structured, sort of easy to follow track, this probably isn't for you. You're going to have to do some thinking. You're going to have to do some pondering and make some potentially sort of dangerous, though probably innocuous assumptions. It's not like you can get hurt by misunderstanding a track unless it's the wrong genre, of course. I think that it was a deliberate decision on eNuminous and Archimedes' part to keep it open to interpretation, and I have a lot of love for that. I think when people are spoon-fed too much, it makes them complacent. I liked the fact that with eNuminous and Archimedes, they use audiovisual sort of situations there. I think, especially if a lack of instruments, because a lack of vocals, should I say, because it's difficult for the person to really get more of an affectation unless they have a little bit of additional context, especially if it is very sort of experimental and on its own sort of level, and it makes it more. Arguably more or less. It's fascinating, whatever your level of music knowledge is, or even your understanding of how music videos are made and the context of them and everything like that. But I enjoyed it a lot. I think that the way these instruments played their parts, even if they weren't necessarily thoroughly intertwined, when they did meet together, there was a lovely overall harmony and composition to it. But when they were separate, it was forgivable because they never committed to being together in the first place. At 5 minutes 23, again, as a through composed piece, I think that there wasn't any filler in it, although I would like to listen to it on my own without having to review it, so I could kind of take in all the little intricacies. But more to the point, the situation with Mowlra, with its studio recording, mixing, mastering, and all that kind of stuff, it was good. it was really good. We've got a musician here who is thoroughly unique in what they do at this point. I haven't heard a lot of music like this. Even the most experimental stuff I've heard has been like arguably more structured than this. I really appreciate what went on with the way that the things like the piano were EQ'd and filtered and recorded. I think that had a nice natural tone to it. A little bit of filtering on it to kind of reduce the extreme high ends. A little bit of resonance or reverb there just to kind of like make it a bit more eerie and to kind of help patch it in with the hi-hats and the different synth parts and the other Foley sounds and the cicada stuffs and all that. Most of that was good. It was just the cicada bits I had a problem with, how they were quite sharp. There was a high resonance somewhere where it sounded a bit too sort of feisty for my tastes, and I think that was a shame because if they'd been like 0.5 dB quieter or something like that, it might have been more palatable to me, but at the same time, maybe that's the effect that eNuminous and Archimedes wanted. It's tricky because I want to try and sort of explain it from like a more structured musician's perspective, but like this is stuff that isn't necessarily meant to be a certain way. It's whatever they want it to be. And I kind of adore them for that. That's why I enjoy reviewing eNuminous and Archimedes' work. You never know what they're going to have next. I think it was nice to widen the stereo field, interesting use of panning for some of the cicada and synth parts there, not sticking in the center field, but going a little bit to the right or to the left or something like that. But they did change positions. There wasn't really any side chaining of the percussion predominantly because there wasn't a lot of percussion and there wasn't a lot of low end there. It was mostly the resonance in those mids and highs, and it was kind of refreshing because I don't need to have my headphones based sort of woofers tested. I just want to enjoy the music. There was a lot of dynamic range to this and change of perceived loudness, which I appreciate, especially at the start. I could see the meter over there and it was not that high, so that's cool. Limiting, compression on the master bus was great. The leveling aside from the cicada parts was really good. It was just a little bit too loud in those cicada bits for me. Overall though, although that could come down to frequency resonance and the frequency spectrum for those parts. But overall, I'm quite happy with this track. I wish eNuminous and Archimedes the best of luck on their Bargain Basement Impressionism album, because this is my review of Mowlra. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out their various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.